welcome to GizmoSapiens show 277. We're going to call this one Channel Surfing. I'm Chris, and with me today is...
I am Matt.
And we're going to talk about entertainment news. There's a lot of entertainment news that we kind of haven't talked about. The first thing I want to talk about, though, even though it's been a couple of weeks since we've done it, Matt and I went and saw Mandalorian and Grogu,
Yes.
and it wasn't even a good episode of TV. It was entertaining.
It was a good episode of TV. I don't know that it was a movie.
No, it was not a movie. It'd have been better if it had been like 5 episodes of TV, half-hour episodes of TV, than a single movie. Um,
I could even see.
and I'm really impressed by the guy who plays the Mandalorian in his suit, who's a totally different actor who did the majority of acting in that movie than Pedro Pascal.
Uh,
We also now know where the Muppets, all the people who work for the Muppets, have gone.
yeah. Uh, Look, I enjoyed it. I liked it.
Yep. It was...
$20 a ticket.
No. It wasn't worth $20
It's
for a
it's
month
already
of
it's
Disney
already
Plus.
coming on Disney Plus next month.
I know. Well, it's because they didn't make any money. Because it wasn't good enough to draw enough people in. It could have been so much better.
Now, will I say it was better than the uh Ray trilogy?
Oh, absolutely.
By leaps and bounds.
Bounds, yeah. But was it quality like we expected? You know, even if you go to the prequel trilogy, the quality of those movies, uh, Jar Jar Binks set aside, uh, is astounding compared to what kind of Star Wars Disney has been putting out lately. And the funny thing is the next week Matt and I went and saw Masters of the Universe, and even though it has not done as well as it should have at the movie theater, it was so much better than Mandalorian and Grogu.
But here's my problem with that movie.
Yeah,
It seemed to be like so many of these movies that go back to the 80s, and
yeah.
it,
Well,
they
there was. Don't get me wrong.
they
The
turn it into a farce.
Well, the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the cartoon, which is really what the movie was based upon, was kind of a farce. You know, it's made by the same guys who did the G.I. Joe cartoon in the 80s, which was totally different than the G.I. Joe comic book, which was really serious. And, you know, it followed the cartoon fairly well. Because the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe comics didn't have, like, Orko and stuff like that in them either.
Yeah.
Which they did in this. And I think if you look at it, they actually did particularly since I've seen all the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe movies that they made, you know, and there was a lot of um, pandering to the fan base in that movie, but I expected it because there was a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor even in the cartoon. And I loved the cameo by Dolph Lundgren, who played He-Man in the first He-Man and the Masters of the Universe movie. Uh, it was just so well done. But you know, when you compare the Masters of the Universe movie to Mandalorian and Grogu, you actually had a story in the Masters of the Universe movie, and you didn't really have. You had a really weak story, and in Mandalorian and Grogu, and the reason I say that the weak story again, I was entertained. Was I 20? Well, in my case, since my wife went with me and Matt, was I $40 entertained? No. And you know, I also took out an auto loan to get a bottle of
Popcorn.
popcorn and a pop. So, you know, um, was it worth it? No. Uh, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, again, took my wife, me and Matt, bought popcorn, bought a pop. I felt that I was much better entertained that in that movie um, than I was in Mandalorian and Grogu, and largely because they did a good job of frankly, telling a story. They had a story to tell, even though the story had been told before, but they did it in a unique enough way that was enjoyable. That the whole idea of going to the movie theater or watching something on television is there is and I talk about this in Star Trek. Like my complaint about the 2009 Star Trek reboot, which hopefully is going away here soon. Will no longer be canon. Um, the issue is your movie has to it can be fantastical and everything, but you have to be able to have this suspension of belief of about that these are the way things are. And sometimes the original Star Wars movie was excellent at that. Is that you got involved in the story so much that the fantastical things were seemed natural in the environment. There was a suspension of belief that we could have hyperdrive. And to a large degree, there Star Trek and most of the Star Trek movies were that way. There was this, even though the Star Trek had a lot of technobabble and stuff behind it, there was this suspension of belief that could let you get in there and believe in the story. And I thought that Masters of the Universe had that. Um, whereas Mandalorian and Grogu, even though it's in the Star Wars universe, and yes, I will agree with you, is better than the Ray trilogy of
which
postquels.
which honestly, all I asked of it was to be better than the Ray trilogy.
I wanted it to be a fitting ending to the Mandalorian and Grogu television series.
Well, we know that's not happening
Yeah.
because there's more to come.
Well, at least be the next a fitting next chapter, and it wasn't. I mean, that's the problem with it. Um,
I will say that what I was expecting was after the credits, we would get a Thrawn scene.
yeah, you could only hope. But if Disney were smart, they would go back to the Timothy Zahn books, get Timothy Zahn to come and help them turn them into screenplays and be an executive producer on the project and go back to that story. And
What's
again,
unfortunate about that is
well, they
even
waited.
Timothy Zahn has retconned the original Thrawn trilogy.
I don't know why it was phenomenal.
It was. But I think in order for him to play with that character again, he had
Had
to,
to disavow it.
yeah,
Yeah.
get along to get along. So
I don't know. So if you had, and then, the next week after Masters was Supergirl, which
I had no desire to
I
see it.
had no desire to see.
I watched the preview and I was like, well, this could be interesting. But the more I heard about it, the less enthused I was.
Well,
And then she had to open her mouth,
yeah, exactly.
and then I was like, you know what? They don't deserve my money if they don't want me to be there.
Exactly. Well, the other thing that I had issues with just in watching so this is supposed to be the whole DC multiverse, you know, story, and you have Jason Momoa, who's recognizably as Jason Momoa, who has already played 2 or
Aquaman
3
and
movies of Aquaman. Why do we have him playing a totally different character?
like I get it if he's like Giorgio, who we have a contract with and we have so many things we can get done and we have so much time to get them done in. Sure, do that. But are you telling me that That's the situation with Jason Momoa?
Yeah, I know.
Come on now.
I know. I know. Well, let's move on from the movies.
Okay.
Uh, First of all, Silo season 3 started it today, although it was actually on last night.
Hmm.
Uh, Even though it's supposed to come out on Fridays. I think they released it early because of the holiday. I have not watched it yet, but I'm very excited. I've read all the books by Hugh Howey, who wrote the story for Silo. Um, and so I mean, spoiler alert, I kind of already know how it should end. But again, that's book versus,
Yeah.
how they're going to do it in the television show. Although they followed the books really closely in the television show. Um, it'll be interesting to see, this new season, because it's the new season's actually supposed to combine the books, the second and third books, where the first two seasons actually talk was the first book only. Ted Lasso is coming back this summer, later this summer. Um, and one of the interesting things is Christopher Hernandez, who played Danny Rojas, football is life. The Mexican football player is actually become a real professional uh, soccer player.
Really?
Yeah, he plays for the El Paso Locomotive FC as a forward. Um, he did a 2-month trial. He did a preseason match against New Mexico United. He played soccer as a kid, but stepped away at 15 due to an injury, and now he's back to playing soccer again. That's actually pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I like it when art imitates life and life imitates art.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So, let's see, what else do we have in our show notes? There's quite a bit here. Uh, One of the things is, so Canada, our bane to the north, has decided that major streamers must pay 15% of revenues to Canadian content to continue to stream to Canadian customers. I would just say no.
Sorry. You want our content, like quality healthcare, come on back down to the United
States,
States.
exactly. Exactly. So the Canadians broadcast regulator CRTC ruled that a major streaming services like Netflix, Apple, and Amazon must contribute 15% of their Canadian revenues to Canadian and Indigenous content, triple the 5% initial requirement set in 2024, which streamers are already challenging in court. Traditional broadcasters who currently pay 30 to 45% will see their requirement lowered to 25%. The CRTC expects the combined contributions to stabilize funding at more than $2 billion for Canadian and Indigenous content. Okay, so here's my thing. If your government has to make you pay for Canadian and Indigenous content, as opposed to that content standing on its own 2 feet,
Well, that's never worked anyway. I mean,
look at the BBC. When you go and you watch most of the BBC channels, it's all American television and syndication. Don't be wrong, the BBC has some good shows, but not,
they
you know,
haven't. Have they really made a good show since Spooks MI5 here in the States?
probably not.
I mean, I can't think of a one. I mean, even the Doctor Who stuff has been horrible.
The last 2, 3 seasons of Doctor Who, which, I mean, they've stopped Doctor Who. BBC basically has put, as they call it, put it out to tender, meaning that they're seeing if somebody will be willing to pay to produce new Doctor Who, and license the IP.
Well, I mean, Disney tried it and it didn't go well.
Well, I wonder why.
Well,
Basically, I think Canada is doing this as a trade uh, irritant. Um, the other thing is about 3/4 of Canada is ready to leave Canada, and a couple of them already have the referendum or have already won referendums, and that the Canadian Supreme Court says they can leave. And the three of them that do are the ones that have the three biggest trade uh, agreements with the United States, that their economies depend on trade, which wouldn't surprise me at some point that those three, it'll happen, and then those three will eventually become states in the United States.
Proving once again Donald Trump was right.
Yes. Yeah. So
At least about that.
there's a new AI only streaming service launching soon, and Hollywood is hoping it fails. But Artist TV, a fully AI generated streaming channel from stock footage and creative assets, um, or Artlist TV, I should say, launches. It launched in June. I have not actually seen anything from it. Um, with a slate of AI generated shows, including Terrible People, a dark comedy, The Sequence, and Deception. Um, People, have been saying it's AI garbage and, but it's all the usual suspects. And don't get me wrong, it very well could be AI garbage. Most television's garbage. even even stuff that used to
Uh,
be good is garbage.
I mean, it's such a low bar.
Um, what's interesting is Artlist is an established company. They've been a stock footage company for a long time. Um, and it looks like they're trying to use this as a test case to see if there is a market for this. Let them utilize the assets that they own and license to do more.
Honestly, if uh, if there is an industry ripe for
Disruption?
disruption
It is
at this
definitely,
level,
absolutely.
it's it's the entertainment industry.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh, I don't recall any actors jumping up when people started losing their jobs to AI.
Yeah. It's only
They only care about that once it hits
well, it's gotten worse because their last two strikes have been
even.
they were better off before they struck.
Yeah. Well, and the deal keeps getting worse and worse for them too.
Yeah.
And
Well, the thing is the entertainment industry is going through another large contraction. Um, as much, when you look at it from a bigger picture, if Paramount doesn't, the U.S. DOJ has allowed Paramount, given the go ahead for Paramount to take over Warner Brothers. Um, it sounds like the UK wants to put up a fight, but I don't think it's going to matter at the end of the day. It's going to happen because the problem is Warner Brothers is insolvent, and if they don't allow Paramount to buy it, there's a whole bunch of people who will be more people than the people Paramount will lay off, and where there's duplicative roles. Uh, there will be a lot more people who will be laid off in the entertainment industry as the assets that aren't worth anything, uh, or the assets that might actually have some value but can't sell for the value that they need to sell for, um, will have to dissolve. You know, because look at, I mean, the funny thing about the Paramount deal and why the Paramount deal was superior to the Netflix deal is Netflix only wanted certain pieces of it, and then they wanted to divest themselves of the other parts. Nobody else wanted all the parts, those other parts. Paramount was willing to take on all of it. You know, am I completely happy that then Paramount will own all the rights to Harry Potter and Star Trek and things? But at the end of the day, look at what they've allowed Disney to do. You know, and because at the end of the day, you have as major traditional powerhouses in the film and entertainment industry, you will have Paramount and Disney, and then you'll have smaller players like Apple and
Amazon.
Amazon, and even though Amazon bought MGM Studios,
We need to circle back to
we're
that.
we're going to. That's
Okay.
in my list.
Okay. Good. Because I have thoughts.
But they're not the big dogs. Uh,
But
you
they're
know,
definitely a
and
they're
look,
definitely the B team. I'll give you that.
and well, I mean, Apple puts out tremendous content. Do I like all of it? No, but I don't like all of everybody's stuff. I mean, but they put what they do put out, even the stuff I don't like, is very high quality. But that's their niche, is to put out high quality stuff that, but not put out like, hey, we're gonna try this show out because it sounds kind of funny, and then cancel it after 3 episodes. Apple doesn't do that. You know what I mean?
Unlike Netflix.
Yeah, unlike Netflix or unlike traditional broadcasters like CBS and ABC. NBC's in trouble. It sounds like NBC may be shuttering. They've canceled a bunch of their streaming shows with no announcements for replacements, and it sounds like Peacock might be dead from a streaming perspective.
I will be okay with that
I'm fine with that too, but
so long as
the bigger thing is if that's the case, what are the real things underneath as a traditional broadcaster does NBC have? Because the reality of it is, with the if you're not willing to, or you cannot successfully move into the streaming space as a traditional broadcaster, you know, the world and the government wants to, the whole reason we went from analog television to DTV, ATSC 1.0, was because they wanted to reallocate that spectrum for other newer stuff. And now they have ATSC 3.0, which nobody wants. And, terrestrial television is not, is it's everybody's backup. Oh, cable's out or internet's out. But the thing is today you have so many backups to even your personal internet. It's like having over the air broadcast television. My cell phone, or internet's out at home, but my cell phone still has internet access, you know?
yeah.
So I can still watch YouTube, I can still watch Paramount Plus, I can still watch, Disney Plus. And they can't make that transition. And it's not like they're going to start putting analog TV tuners in televisions or laptops, or the ATSC tuners, I should say. Nobody wants that,
Why would they do that?
you know. And the television industry is so screwed up right now. Um, think about this. You would buy a television when I was in high school and in college before we went, they got rid of tube TVs. A television, we had televisions at our house, like 13-inch televisions and some 20-inch televisions and stuff like that, that were over 20 years old. And they worked fine. They were color televisions and they could get UHF and VHF. Today, a LCD television, if you're lucky, if it lasts 10 years, but most of them break within 5 or 6 years or start having issues. And then all the smart TV stuff on top of them is makes it worse. And that's part of the reason they don't last as long. Um, and great. When you're talking about a low margin business like televisions have become in the flat panel business, they want you to, there's a lot of engineered obsolescence because they want you to buy a new television soon. But because of that, and people have moved and I would say that people will argue that, oh, it's just the young people who've moved away to, that grew up with iPads and cell phones and laptops and stuff, have moved away to watching their entertainment on, not on TVs but on other devices. But I watch 90% of my TV on a 32-inch monitor because it's there attached to my computer while I'm doing other work. I don't have a separate TV running in the background. And the few times where I do sit down and watch the TV, I'm not watching traditional broadcasting anyway. I'm watching YouTube or I'm watching Paramount Plus or, you know,
Y- Yeah, I think the television entertainment industry is in dire straits. I mean, it's broadcast television has long been a
well, they're gonna need that the rest of that spectrum, even the DTV spectrum. The only reason things like I mean, and this kind of that FM and AM radio but particularly AM radio, um, and broadcast TV have uh, been around is because of the fact that they need to have some kind of national emergency service to broadcast, uh, threat information, whether it's a weather event or whatever. Um, but I think we can find better ways to do that. And like this whole new ATSC 3.0 standard, which requires that you have to be able to, they have to be able to encrypt the broadcast between and this is something that the broadcasters want, encrypt the broadcast to the tuner so that people can't record off the broadcast. Uh, it breaks the whole emergency broadcast system and and everything. And again, just like the analog to DTV transition, when you had to buy a box to do this stuff, to watch TV on your old system because that's going to be a new requirement because there's no TVs with an ATSC 3 tuner in it. Partly because the ATSC 3 standard hasn't been completely decided on either. And I think what will end up happening is people are already not using broadcast TV. Nobody will go. They'll find that nobody wants these cheapo $35 tuners, and you'll find the TV industry is like, well, why would I put that in my smart TV? You know, and the market's going to determine the end of broadcast television.
which brings us back to the AI
Yeah.
channel. Um, I've found that AI, and you have as well, AI is particularly good at developing show notes and here's an idea for a thing, help me develop it.
Yes.
It's really good for those kinds of things, which is hilarious coming out of my mouth, but
It's not good at actually finishing it.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good at fleshing out ideas and giving you some structure, but it's not good at the details.
Correct. Correct. Well, and because of that, it's going to be a lot of work to produce quality content, you know. But if the cost is right to doing it that way, people will start putting out content until they figure out how to build better prompts and flesh out, the storylines and ideas. Um,
Now, I assume this is going to be an all AI production, including cast and
oh
all
yeah,
of that.
they're
Like
talking
it's
about Artlist is a company who produces stock footage and owns a huge back catalog of stock footage. And so they're talking about using all of that stock footage as source material for
I mean, again, now you're talking about having to build AI generated characters that,
Are believable.
yeah,
Don't have the whole uncanny valley effect.
yeah, no third hand bursting out of their
Well,
chest unless
maybe.
they're an Adoan or
Aliens.
yeah. Like I get that, but I kind of get the impression that's not where they're headed.
So, let's move on a little bit.
Okay.
Um, again, I think we're gonna see AI as either partially generating, involved in the production process a lot more. Um, but the people who have experience using AI, or have experience making good content,
I,
I think will be successful using AI to
I,
produce content.
I will give the actors one prop.
Mhm.
If I had to guess where the biggest problem in the entertainment industry is, it's at the executive level.
Isn't that usually the
The
case?
producers, the executive producers, the decision makers.
But see, they're the ones who control all the money.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
If AI can do that and improve the level of decision making at that level, it might have a chance.
Or improve the lack of decision making at that level. Yeah. Okay, so going back to Star Wars, we talked about Mandalorian and Grogu.
Okay.
Um, so Ryan Gosling uh confirmed on May 28th, 27 in an interview that that is the release date of Star Wars Starfighter, which is an all new story based in the Star Wars universe. It's supposed to be directed by Sean Levy. Um, but that interview was at the Star Wars Celebration 2025. And they said that principal photography wrapped on December of 2025. So, you know, at this point, it's all editing, probably reshoots over the summer. And then if they have a May release, they'll really have VFX and everything done by probably by December uh 26, January 27, and then everything else is hype and release and marketing at that point. Um it's supposed to be a fresh start according to Disney. Um it's supposed to be a reset button after Mandalorian and Grogu's underwhelming debut. And Ryan Gosling is supposed to be the new face of Star Wars. So he's supposed to be what we always talk about. Who do you identify with? And he's supposed to be Ryan Gosling, particularly after his success with Hail Mary. Um, is supposed to be the new Han Solo, the Harrison Ford type character.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Me too. Me too.
My guess is that he'll have some boss babe telling him what to do and making him look stupid and all the usual tropes that Disney's given us thus far. And they're hoping that by slapping Ryan Gosling's name on it, it will draw enough of that empowered female audience that loves to just look at dudes and be happy with it. I'm not convinced until I see it.
Oh, me too. Me too. I will say this: I'm happy to see a Ryan Gosling though, because again, at least he's definitely doesn't have the charisma of Harrison Ford as a Han Solo type character, but it, he's at least more identifiable than Kylo Ren or Rey or even Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian. My favorite character in the Mandalorian they killed off, which was the sheriff.
Yeah.
And my second favorite character they fired.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep hoping they'll bring her back, but
Yeah, whatever. I don't know that they could ever do make enough amends to bring her back.
no. And at this point,
Well, she's going back to professional UFC wrestling or fighting.
theoretically, I mean, she took on Ronda,
Yeah.
but I think that was a farce because what that last 2 minutes, and then they ended up hugging it out.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, come on now.
Well, she's an actress now. She can't, like,
Well, that's what I'm
damage
saying.
her face.
That's what I'm
So is
saying.
Rhonda.
But Ronda failed as an actress, so
I
she's
know.
back
Yeah.
messing up her body and all that.
I know, I agree with you. You know, Disney's saying it's an all new storyline. It hasn't been something that, although calling it Starfighter is a lot like the Wedge Antilles books,
Well, and
Star Wars
it,
X-Wing.
they're making the same mistakes all over again. Instead of giving us the Timothy Zahn original Thrawn trilogy, they gave us whatever Ahsoka and Mandalorian and Grogu are going to do with it.
Well,
Uh,
the sad thing is I enjoyed the Ahsoka
I did too.
series. Uh, Andor was amazing.
It was.
And, it's not like they're incapable of doing good stuff. It's like they're unwilling to do good stuff.
The other thing is that, we finally did get a good boss babe in Andor.
Mhm.
She was the villain,
Exactly.
which tells me all I need to know.
Yeah. So we're circling back around to MGM because I know that what you
Yeah.
want to talk about is what I wanted to talk about,
Okay.
which is Amazon has officially killed the
Yeah.
Stargate series.
Yes. Bastards.
So, those of you who don't know, Amazon had an in development Stargate series, uh,
Well into development.
well in development from a creator Martin Garrow. Um, they gave it a formal series order in 2025, but studio executives worried the show would only appeal to longtime franchise fans, so they killed it.
So part of what you haven't mentioned is there is a turnover at Amazon. Like, these guys can't stick around any longer than 2 years. So nothing gets through the pre-production
Production
phase.
phase, yeah,
And so then the new guys come in and they're like, well, I don't want to be known for the last guy's crap.
yeah,
I want to do my stuff. Well, that would be great if that would happen at Disney.
yeah. Well, they did finally get rid of Kathleen Kennedy. The problem is Starfighter was in production before Kathleen Kennedy was let go. So my fear is that the stink of Kathleen Kennedy will be all over.
Which is why I said he'll have some boss babe making him look
Yeah,
stupid, and he'll end up being a buffoon, and it'll be the same crap. Like, fresh start, my hindquarters.
yeah,
But the biggest problem with Amazon, like I said, is they can't keep the decision makers around long enough.
yeah. Well, also, not I love these franchises. Um, I love Star Trek. I do love Star Wars to a point. I mean, I love even some of the newer stuff. I loved the Bad Batch. I loved Andor. I really have enjoyed Ahsoka, but I have a feeling Ahsoka's kind of dead at this point. Um, I don't know that they're coming out with any more because the guy who played the villain, the
Oh
Dark
yeah,
Jedi, he died right after the first season.
they recast him though.
But I mean, we've heard nothing on. Um,
That second season is slated.
it's slated, but they no release date, no production updates.
Yeah, I don't know.
And yes, with all this turmoil in the industry, would Stargate be an expensive show to make? Yes, and they did cut budget at MGM, Amazon MGM,
Well,
on The Boys, like the final season of The Boys, because again, another show that required a lot of VFX work and post-production. Um,
I thought they were building all these data centers to boost AI and let the visual effects, special effects be done by AI for pennies on the dollar.
can't get them built fast enough,
Uh,
just like we can't build enough manufacturing fast enough. So the question is would and this being we just made the comment that the two big boys really are Paramount and Disney, and you have Apple and Amazon and Netflix kind of as the smaller studios, you know, with Netflix kind of with Apple kind of being the we make high-end content, and Netflix being we make shit content, and then Amazon being in the middle.
we
Um
don't make content. We just,
um
God, we just cancel content.
yeah, we just cancel content. What is Amazon gonna start selling off some of these properties? And would be somebody be interested in picking Stargate up?
I would love to see what Paramount would
Would do with
do with
Stargate.
Stargate.
I would do too. I would too. Well, I mean,
But just picking up Harry Potter is going to be,
well, considering
that
that
will suck out a
they're
lot of
gonna
oxygen.
they're gonna pick up Harry Potter, and they're gonna release season one almost as soon as they close the deal.
Yeah. But that's my point.
Yeah,
Like, that's going to suck up some
the
oxygen
oxygen.
for quite a while
Yeah.
at Paramount, which to this day, I've not seen a single one of those movies or read a single book.
Oh, you have not?
No.
You're kind of missing out. It's very entertaining.
Well, at this point, there's like 15 movies. And so, like, I feel like I'd have to set aside
You'd have to set aside what?
a whole, like, 3-day weekend to just get through 30 hours of movies. And I just
It's not 30 hours of movies. There's only 7 movies.
thought there were like 9.
Mm. You have Harry Potter and Sorcerer's Stone. Oh, you're talking about all of the like the creatures movies, the later ones with Eddie Redmayne,
I, I guess.
the Fantastic Creatures. There's 2 of those. Yeah, so there is 9 movies. You don't really need to watch the 2 creatures movies. The books, the movies based on the books are the first 7 movies. And
The only good thing about Harry Potter is that she's pissed off enough people that, like, even if she wrote another book, it would fail.
she's written many other books. She actually some of her books that are not Harry Potter books I've enjoyed more than Harry Potter, like the Ichabod. It's a great book. I've probably read and listened to it.
What I'm saying though is, like, she can't come back and add more to that world and have it be as successful as it was.
No, I
She's
mean,
done.
eh,
I hate to
yes,
say that because I genuinely agree with her, but
yeah.
she's done.
So, let's move on.
Okay.
So, this is kind of near and dear to our hearts since we both got to meet her. I met her a few times. But a New Mexico hospital has been ordered to pay $13 million over Nichelle Nichols' death in 2022
Really?
for negligence. Yeah. Um,
How so?
so her family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the hospital, uh, and the jury verdict resulted in a $13 million award when Nichols passed away in 2022 at age 89. Um, it's been a 4-year legal process. Uh, and which again, think about 4 years. This is pretty fast for the time it takes litigation to get in a wrongful death suit. Um, but let me look at my notes here.
I don't recall. What did she
So
actually
what
die of?
she died of a heart issue, and they had taken her into the um, taken her to the emergency room, and instead of treating her, inspecting what was going on immediately, she was having problems breathing and everything else. They put her on. They just gave her some drugs and told her to go home, and she died the next day.
Huh.
Um, and of a heart issue, they didn't do any diagnostics. They didn't. They just take 2 pills and call me in the morning,
Uh,
which is kind of typical of medicine in the world today. As much as everybody likes to talk about their medicine in socialized countries, uh, the people who are doctors everywhere don't really know how to care for people. They just know how to prescribe medicine or tell you to get surgery.
well, and more often than not, it's the healthcare cartels that
Yes,
are uh,
behind all of that.
behind all of that.
I don't know. I would argue that there's a lot less doctors have become, well, one, you're almost never are you being seen by a doctor today unless there's something really serious, and then you're being seen by a specialist because the specialist can, the hotel car or hotel medical cartels can charge more for seeing a specialist to the insurance companies, which the insurance companies then just pass that on to you. Um, but they're no longer uh, doing diagnostic work. So they're not finding out what the issue is. They're not doing the research. Um, they're more like what I would call an auto technician, in the sense that when you take your car in and they find something wrong, they let the computer analyze it. They're letting AI analyze you now. They're letting the computer analyze it, and they go, "Hey, this sensor needs to be replaced," and they replace the sensor. And that's why they tell you, "Oh, you're having these symptoms. We'll give you a prescription for this."
I don't know. Heart problems and having trouble breathing is not one where typically that's a here, go take this pill and call your family doctor tomorrow. That's one they usually take a little more seriously.
Well, we are talking New Mexico too.
Fair enough.
Here, let me pull up this actual article, and I will tell you exactly what happened, because I'm paraphrasing based on the fact that I read it a while ago. So, she was admitted for shortness of breath. Uh, Nichols' family claimed that she should have received a full cardiac examination, but medical personnel sent her to the observation unit, and she was discharged the next day. After being transported to her assisted living home, she passed away 7 hours later.
So she did stay over
Yeah.
in an observation unit.
Yep.
Uh, that to me sounds more like act of God than.
Well, here's what it says. The lawsuit alleged that the Gila Medical Center hired credentialed and inappropriately supervised unqualified medical providers who treated the actress. The lawsuit also alleges that the hospital failed to secure a bed for Nichols or transfer her to a facility that had one. Furthermore, the attorney argued that the staff should have known that the assisted living center was not equipped to handle a patient with her medical needs. And I agree with that.
Yeah, that last bit's probably.
But it says at the end of the day, Nichelle Nichols had a heart attack that was missed, and that's why she died. The jury only deliberated for 2 hours. I don't trust doctors anyway, so
Yeah, I typically don't either. I think they're all quacks.
well, I talk about this because this is a generational thing, and we're as Gen Xers, we're pretty bad at about this because we were the first generation to really be, our parents' generation, from on an average, had much better education than their parents did. Um, you know, and we in further part because of the whole idea of everybody should, by the time we came around, everybody should go to college. That was the mantra, you know. And so we ended up being much more discerning and educated in the sense that, and we also were educated in a time when the education was much more about using the knowledge you have, and if you don't have the knowledge, figuring out how to get the knowledge and use that knowledge that you've gained. Um, so we're much more critical thinkers and we do our own research, and we're much more. I know my doctor, she is not happy when she comes to see me and she says something and I'm like, no, and I'll go, have you read this study and this study and this study? And I know she hasn't, because when she treats her job like a line worker, she sees 100 patients a day, and she treats symptoms, she doesn't treat ailments, and she goes home and she doesn't think about it ever again. She's not getting continuous education, which you would read, you're required to have in IT and education and all these other places to stay ahead of the trends. um and so because of that, uh she doesn't like the fact that, I can see it in her eyes, because I get that. I've become an expert of seeing that teenage look, like, you know not rolling their eyes, but kind of looking at you like, just, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Don't. But
I find that
our grandparents, and like my mother-in-law, who's much older than my mom, but they grew up in a time when um the smartest people in your community that you would interact with were doctors, lawyers, and usually the bank president, because they were the only people who were educated.
yeah.
And so when you went to the doctor and the doctor said, do this, people typically did. And, and they never questioned them. And medical education, to this day, even when you're being seen by a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant or anything else, they don't uh, they don't appreciate your input, you know, because their output is, we can do surgery for this, or we can send you to a specialist who will want to do surgery, or we can give you a drug to deal with this.
Uh, my experience with the nurse practitioners has been better than my experience dealing with the doctors, with the exception of the 90-year-old doctor that I had when I first got diagnosed.
But that's because that 90-year-old doctor was an actual diagnostician.
Right.
He Okay, let's figure this out, you know.
He's the one that actually let me figure out which medications and in which dosages
Yeah. So,
were
oddly enough, the person who diagnosed me was my ophthalmologist. I went in to get my annual eye check, because, my glasses were not working as well as they were. And she goes, "You have some diabetic retinopathy. You need to go see the doctor." And she bugged me about it until I did.
nag, nag, nag.
But she's a diagnostician. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, when you're in there and you're going through tests and you see things, that's I can't remember the last time. Well, blood tests. They seem to like to order blood tests all the time,
yeah, every time,
which I
well,
don't.
I have to go get, they want to see your A1C, and they want, you know, you need to do this and you need to do that. And I'm like, is it cost extra? No. I'm
My
Because she also didn't like the fact that I told her, she goes, "Well, we're trying to rule out anything that might, uh, cause you to die early." And I said, "We all gotta die sometime."
which is kind of my approach to the whole diet thing. Not that I
Mhm.
didn't make some changes. I made some changes that were appropriate and has led me to a significantly better health situation. But am I gonna just eat cardboard? No.
Well, I don't eat cardboard, but I
You
know.
get what I'm saying,
Yeah,
though.
no, I
Like
agree.
it's
But the funny thing
I'm not
is
gonna let
I
some
did
doctor tell me what
but
I am
but
and
I
I'm
w
not gonna eat.
but when I went to I started doing the research, I listened to I read several published books by biochemists and nutritionists and diabetic nutritionists, and they're all saying the same thing, which is you want to, you know, it, you want to lower your A1C even though you're taking drugs, because the drugs all have side effects. So you want to take as little drugs as you possibly can, and they were like, eliminate sugar.
Plus, I kinda feel like,
Well, and like you and I had to take totally different regimens of drugs.
we do.
And the GLP-1 uptake inhibitors, they have all kinds of issues
Oh,
because
they
they're
really
new
do.
drugs, and they don't have 20 or 30 years of experience
But
with
what's
them.
crazy about that is they're now on GLP-3s.
I
So,
know.
like, they're not even waiting around long enough to see whether or not this actually works or not.
Yep.
And I'm dying for this doctor to tell me I have an appointment on Tuesday, which is why it's all fresh in my head. Uh, she had wanted me to increase the dosage of my GLP-1 from a 7.5 to a 10. And the pharmacy was like, well, that'll be $400, please. And I was like, No, the 7.5 cost me $25. I'm not getting $375 worth of additional
Mhm.
potency. We'll take the 7.5 and the doctor and I'll fight that out again on my next appointment, which is coming up, which is,
Well, that was the same thing, I went in, we did the usual thing, sat down, she asked me if and frankly, because I changed my diet and lost a ton of weight, my health outcome is so much better. And if I just taken the drugs, I probably wouldn't have, because a year ago, I saw her, like, right before my birthday, and she asked me if I was gonna have birthday cake, and I said, "No." I said, "I don't eat birthday cake anymore," and she goes, "You can have cake, a slice of cake," and I'm like, "No." And, she gave me that, you know, look like, and the fact of the matter is I don't really like cake, so it's not like I've lost,
yeah.
you know I might crave cake once every year or 2.
And now my Boston cream donut, you can pull that from my cold dead hand,
I haven't had
but
donuts for 2 years,
you
so
know
shut up.
what I'm saying.
But you know what I'm saying.
I do.
And so it's not it's all, and when the internet came about, doctors and stuff, they didn't like the fact that there was a lot of medical information. And don't get me wrong, just because the information is there, and it's factual information, it's not like it's not factual. Um, but there's so many things and that's why a doctor should be a diagnostician, and a lot of them aren't. Or your medical people should be diagnosticians, and a lot of them aren't. Um, because there are so many things that there's so many symptoms that could indicate so many different things. So
But bringing that all back to
Nichelle,
Nichelle,
yeah.
this is another case where I think the medical healthcare community has done itself a huge disservice by stopping being clinicians
Correct.
and are now like, what box do you fit in? What's the code, the protocol for this box that you fit in? And that's not how humanity operates.
No, no,
It's never operated that way.
no. So we got two more things I want to talk about.
All right.
Um, well, one, and we kind of mentioned this before, the Justice Department approved Paramount's $111 billion acquisition of Warner Brothers. Um, there's no conditions attached from the DOJ ruling, which I actually thought there would be. Like, you may have to get rid uh, of Nickelodeon, because you own Nickelodeon. You may have to get rid of the assets that Warner Brother owns for children's television or not. But they said no. They don't have to do anything. Um, and frankly, the only people who matter on this, as much as the European regulators want to step in it, uh, and say, we do not approve this merger. The only people who matter is the U.S. government, because Paramount and Warner Brothers are U.S. companies.
And again, if Europe has a problem with it, that's what I call a you problem.
Yeah. Well, the EU has a lot of you in it. It's a you problem. And then lastly, I want to talk about Fox has acquired Roku for $20 billion. And that's kind of interesting because Roku, uh, and this is not Fox owned by Disney, this is Fox Television. Um, and again, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about NBC before. And if you're not willing to transition to the streaming platform, then you are bound to fail. And NBC was the last one to create a streaming service from the traditional broadcasters. Um, and Fox, I think, is looking at Fox News and their assets, and they're like, how are we going to, even though they're available from a streaming perspective, how are we going to move forward with this? So that, because cable TV is dying, as if not worse than broadcast TV.
It's a close second.
It's a close second. Yeah. Now, will this deal still has to pass regulatory scrutiny and all this other stuff, but I don't see anything uh gonna block this one either. Yes, are they both entertainment products? But it's two parts of the industry that it's not like Fox already owns a a streaming device business that owns 10% of the market share, and they're buying out a competitor so that they can increase their market share by um,
I'd kind of like to see all the Fox stuff go on Roku's free channel.
and that's very likely to happen, because that's and things have changed. It used to be Roku. Well, Roku was the first streaming company. I actually still have the original box that you could buy, and it was called a Netflix streaming box when Netflix first started. It was that was the only thing it did, but it gave you a box that you plugged to your TV, and you could stream Netflix directly to your TV, as opposed to renting DVDs or hooking a computer up to stream the nascent Netflix service, to your television. And it was wildly successful. They were the first streamer, hardware out there, really. And as they added more services and things, and it became Roku as opposed to the Netflix streaming box by Roku. um but at the end of the day, now that there's so many competitors out there, Because for a long time, their only competitor was Apple TV, the actual Apple TV box. And
Yeah.
then, but now that there's, Samsung has their service on their smart TVs, and LG has their service on their smart TVs, and Philips has their service on their TVs. Roku is no longer licensing the Roku technology to the television companies for use, which means they're not making as much money. And a lot of people, even though my personal opinion is you should not buy and use any of the smart services on a smart TV. Just use it as a display. Go buy you a Roku or an Apple TV, whatever your flavor that you like, and plug it into the back, because the smart TVs, they're they wear out quickly. They two software updates, and all of a sudden you hit the button and it takes 3 physical seconds for it to change. And so if you hit the button 3 times in a row, you're 10 things past what you were looking for. Uh, and it doesn't matter how expensive your television is, you know, they're all like that. Whereas, you buy a Roku streaming stick for $15, or an Amazon Fire Stick, or you buy an Apple TV, which is way over engineered, so it lasts for like 7 years, uh, and you never get a performance degradation, over those 7 years, other than, oh, they went from 4K to 8K. I can't watch 8K content. But wait a minute, nobody makes 8K content. you know, um, you can throw down $15 and get a new one that has the latest processor in it, and it just works. You can't do that with the TV, because you'd be throwing out your TV and then paying $600 or $700 to get a new TV. Although your TV might grow over time. I remember when $700 bought a 50-inch TV, and then $700 bought a 65-inch TV, and then $700 bought a 75-inch TV, and now $700 will buy an 85-inch TV. But really, do you really need an 85-inch TV? Particularly since um, LCD digital projectors have dropped in price. I mean, the ones we used to order, and it would be so uh, for like $50 off of Amazon. They're now in better ones are now in stores for $50. So, if you want 200 inches of television, have a big white blank wall in your house, get a projector.
Which, as you know, is what
You
I
did for a
did
long
for the
time.
longest time on a even crummier projector. Um, I would consider that for my bedroom.
Well, we we have a 55-inch Samsung television in our bedroom, and we had to remodel the bathroom, which is on the other side of the wall. So, in part of that, they had to redo some of the electric, and that outlet on that wall of the bedroom was tied to the circuit in the bathroom. So, for over a year, that television didn't have any power and no way to power it. And so my wife got onto Amazon and bought like $125 projector kit that came with a big screen and everything. And she used it so much that that projector actually burned up and died. And I had bought her a new projector, which is even smaller and costs a lot less. But she uses that to watch TV, and she has not taken down that screen, even though that TV works perfectly fine. I made sure that, you know, it was hooked up. It even has its own Apple TV. She took the Apple TV off the TV and put it on her projector.
I would totally do that. But like I said, I have done that.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of wrap it up from there.
Okay.
So, let us know what you think. What, is the industry having, is this contraction in the industry good for the industry? Or, are all these things that are changing the industry? Let us know what you think. Send feedback to GizmoSapiens@gmail.com, and we'll see you on the digital flip side.
You've been listening to Gizmo Sapiens, a technology and entertainment podcast. You can reach us at our email address at gizmosapiens@gmail.com. That's GizmoSapiens GizmoSapiens@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you, and we'll see you next week from the digital flip side.